So I'm going live a few minutes early. When I put into Chat GPT when was the best time to go live for the original video I did today, it also said that I should always start a live a couple minutes prior to when I'm supposed to go live, because that gives time for people to be, for Facebook to notify people that I'm live. Whether or not that happens or not, I don't know. So who am I? I am Jax West. I always have to say that at the beginning of these videos because I always get the question of who are you? So my name is Jax West, and I run this page, Steven Avery Project, as well as we've got our closed group called MAM Gossip. Let me turn off the sound of my computer. That is, I guess it's just still going to continue to make all these stupid noises. So we have our closed group, MAM Gossip, where over the years we've really gotten into the drama of the case, that not necessarily wanted stuff to go out publicly. So that's what MAM Gossip is. That then we get people who don't know what MAM is. That stands for Making a Murderer. So we have MAM Gossip. And then I also have my page and my YouTube channel, which is called Justice with Jax. That's where I discuss this case and other ones that I advocate for, and then whatever I feel like. So I am live now because I did the video earlier today that I wanted to talk about, where I had come across a picture that is posted here on Steven Avery Project. It was hey Debbie. It was a picture of Steven's father, Alan Avery, and then it had something handwritten on that picture that looked like Steven's handwriting to me. And it said that his brother Earl and Earl's daughters Kayla, Brittany, and Marie were keeping Alan away from Steven. And that's something that really upsets me. So I posted it, but I also wanted to know if it was true. And so yesterday I sent a text message. I signed up for the account for Steven, and I sent him a text message, and he responded saying that he would have later that evening time to talk. I did not hear from him later that evening. I don't know if maybe he tried to call me. And now, while I was live this morning, or earlier, I should just say, it was morning here for me, he did try calling me. I have my cell phone set up that any calls that come in that are not a phone number that I programmed into my phone goes directly into voicemail. And so then somebody who was on that video when we were live, they also text with Steven. And so they sent him a message saying that I said I would be available during the day for him to call back. So Steven did call. And actually, and I should turn my settings back on of the, because I really hate the spam calls that come in. And I also work in politics, so I get a whole lot of political junk that gets sent to me and people trying to call me. So I would much rather it just go right to voicemail and my phone not ring. So when Steven had called me when I was on the first live, I then programmed that number in. And that's the same number that he called me from. I did take, where did I put it now? I did take some notes. some quick notes of when Steven called me. When you talk to somebody from prison, they it typically only allows, depending on the phone service, 20 to 30 minutes. So Steven called me, and so let me cover what I learned. That picture is real. Steven said he asked Barb to send him that picture. He's not sure when that picture was taken. He doesn't know if it's from the last hunting season that just happened. I believe their deer hunting season is November, because that's always Barb has told Brendan that she won't visit him in November because it's all hunting all the time. So Steven isn't sure if that is a picture from recent or older, but he said, his dad does look okay, and actually happy in that picture. But it is true. He has been cut off from having any kind of contact with his father. And this is due to his brother, Earl Avery. Earl has power of attorney over Alan. He also had power of attorney over Dolores before she died. And that Earl pretty much is cutting Alan off from many in the family, not just Steven. Steven says Chuck is actually on Steven's side on this. Earl is such a horrible person. And Steven did mention in the call today how Earl was a part of that stupid convicting a murderer bullshit, which that's a thing that if you go to the Justice with Jack's YouTube channel, I did videos refuting that stupid convicting a murderer. So Earl is also the person who, on one of my field trips to Manitowoc, I had gone into the Verdant deer camp because I wanted to show the viewers that how close Cuss Road and the Verdant quarry and all that is to the salvage yard. That, it doesn't take that long to drive there when you have to go around all that land, but I wanted to show you on the land how close it was. And I had done a live video, and we were doing it, I believe that when I was doing an MAM gossip, since that's a closed group. But I know so many in the Avery family and such have fake profiles to, which they call sock accounts, is the whole sneaky Facebook world, sock account things. I don't do any of that. So Earl and the family saw my video, and then it was Chuck that contacted, is his name Josh Redant, to let him know that I was trespassing at the, what they said was trespassing in what Earl calls trespassing. And so a month or so after my time up there, I got a ticket in the mail for trespassing. And so I had to go back up to Manitowoc and go to court. And then I had to pay a fine for my trespassing in the Redant deer camp. Earl is, if you search Earl's name and look at his criminal record, it's lengthy. And so Dolores Avery was taken for Steven, and now his father has been taken from him. Steven said that he did call in for a welfare check, and the whoever did that welfare check said that his father was fine, but um Sandy Greenman and that guy Mark, I don't remember what his name is, but the rich guy from Australia, um who regularly visits Stephen, I apparently both Mark and Sandy have been cut off from Earl or Alan. This really pisses me off. It it is not right to keep Alan away from Stephen. This is elder abuse. I mean, that is a real legal thing. And it's horrible when people take advantage of the elderly. Stephen said that Earl basically, there you go, hood not or something like that, Bryce. Yeah, you're right. Um, that Earl basically lives in Crivets now most of the time across the street from Alan. The Avery family owns a whole bunch of land up in Crivets, and they have homes at different plots on this land. Um, but then there's also some sneaky, shady, I don't know what you want to say, of who owns what. And Stephen said that Alan actually doesn't own anything anymore. Everything's been put in other people's names. So I did ask Stephen if it's true that the salvage yard is closed. And he said, yes, the salvage yard is closed, but the family does still own it. Bryce says over 160 acres. It's a lot of property there. Um, so I don't know what Earl's alleged reasons are for keeping Alan away from Stephen, Sandy, or Mark. I told Stephen I would be happy to drive up to Crivets and go get Alan and take him to visit Stephen at the prison. I would be happy to go to Crivets and go try and see Alan for myself. Um, that's a farther drive for me than when I go up to Manitowoc. Let me put it into my phone right now. Crivets is 3 hours and 43 minutes from my house, 263 miles. Oh, there's my husband saying reason so he can convince Alan to leave everything to him and no one can interfere. And actually, and I was talking to Bryce about this, um, texting with him before I did this. Bryce is who goes with me and my husband when we've gone to Manitowoc. And I told Bryce that I would go to Crivets, and he's like, you would have to be careful. And I'm like, oh, I absolutely wouldn't go to Crivets without bringing my husband. I wouldn't do that alone. And I know my husband would want to make sure that Alan is not being abused. So I know I wouldn't be having to force my husband to go with me. I do not know if Alan has dementia or anything like that. I do not know his health. So, but at the very least, well, Stephen can't even really talk to his dad on the phone because his dad is hard of hearing. And I know it's hard whether you have hearing aids or not. Phones are difficult. Um, Kaylee, when I told Steven I would go to Crivets, Steven said he is currently already looking into something and on looking into what's going on with his dad. And he wants that to play out. And see what happens with that first. So I will stand down, and even though instantly I want to be Jeff, you and I this weekend will drive up to Crivets. Um, but I am not. I asked him if he has talked to Kathleen Zellner about this, and he really doesn't want to bring Kathleen into this because he says he would prefer Kathleen focus on his case and not pick up something else. Oh, Wanda, I totally didn't ask him how long it's been since he's seen or talked to his father. That's an excellent question that I dropped the ball on and um didn't didn't ask him. So I don't know how long it's been. Um but Steven does have somebody brought up in the last video that Steven was going to be talking to Kathleen Zellner on Wednesday, and I did verify that with Steven, so he is talking to Kathleen on Wednesday, but I believe that is going to be just talking about his case. Now, on his case, what is there to tell? Well, there's nothing to tell. I don't know if talking to Kathleen, that if there's anything new with his case or anything like that. It could just be a typical jail call, because she does that with Melissa Kaluzinski, where there's nothing to tell them that's new on their case. It's just a check-in. So, don't know. Um, I was happy to hear from that Steven has a girlfriend. No, it's not Sandy Greenman. I know a lot of people automatically assume that Sandy is his girlfriend. No, he has a girlfriend. He says that they have been together for 5 years and that they keep it under wraps. And it's not, and I'm like, please, does she live in Wisconsin? And he said no. And I'm like, that's great. I am so thrilled because Wisconsin would not be a good place for her. And I'm happy for Steven because I know in the times that I've talked to him before, I mean, the guy's really been cheated out of a life. He was married and had children when he was taken for the Penny Bernstein case. I mean, they had newborn twins at that time. And that case cost him his wife and his children. His wife later married and is currently married to Pete Dassey, which was one of Barb's husbands and the father of her children. Pete is the father of Brendan Dassey. So Steven's ex-wife is Brendan's stepmother. I know it's so confusing to keep all this straight. So Steven has been robbed of being married and having children. I don't know if any of his children are currently speaking to him. I know he really only had the one daughter, Jennifer, who he started having a relationship with, but I don't know the status on that now. So I'm very happy to hear that he has a girlfriend and that he has had one for 5 years. Hopefully the family doesn't know anything about her, because when he's had girlfriends in the past, then the family tries to destroy that woman. So I don't need to know her name or anything about her. um I'm just thankful he has somebody. I ask Steven if there is anything he needs or wants. Does he need money on his commissary, or is there anything I can send him? Um, Typical Steven, he said he has a couple $100. Um, but so he wasn't asking for any money or anything, but he said that people can always donate to his commissary account. And I believe that's through, it's like called Access or something like that. And we have in our pinned posts that we've had for years on how you could put money on Steven's commissary. So if you want to do that, feel free to do that. I also always tell people to go to Zellner's website, KathleenTZellner.com. She's got a whole page that is dedicated to Steven's case, where if you have a tip, here's where, a phone number that you can call. Here's an email that is specific for Steven Avery case tips. And then here's where you could put money to help in his defense. So while Steven wasn't asking for anything, they can always use money, because a thing that most people don't realize, I didn't know until I started advocating for the wrongfully accused, they're really not given anything, so they have to, they're buying their own soap, and they have to buy their shampoo, buy socks, all this stuff that they have to buy themselves, and people want to do this whole they're getting free room and board on the taxpayer's dime. No, they really aren't. um it's it's sad. So I never try to dissuade people that if you want to put money on somebody's commissary account, go for it. Just don't give it to the Avery family. Avery family doesn't deserve anything. Tony's saying she can't hear me. I hope everybody can hear me. I know I was kind of whispering as I get upset. And I should be whispering. I should be talking louder. So hopefully that was the only issue. So Stephen and I did not get into, you're only on the phone for 20 minutes. So I do not know why Stephen cut me off this last go around and that I haven't heard from him. But I did tell Stephen that I am always here for him. I always support his innocence. That the Steven Avery Project still has over 200,000 followers. And if there is ever anything that he wants me to put out there, to please send it to me. And so like this thing that I found that just happened upon in my feed with the picture of Alan, if he had sent that to me, I would put it up. So, because he does want people to know. That was the whole purpose of that picture that I came across in my feed. He wants people to know that Earl Avery and his daughters, why did I say daughters? All weird. And his daughters, Kayla, Marie, and Brittany, are keeping his father, Alan Avery, from him. And that Sandy and Mark also tried to get access to Alan. These are people who have visited with Alan for years now. They have taken, both of them have taken Alan, I know, on visits to the prison. And they are not having any access with Alan Avery. So, don't know what's happening. I don't like it. So, Alan really should be going on visits to Steven. Phone calls and those videos, those would be more difficult for Alan due to hearing. So it would be better to visit in person. Katie, Mark is some rich guy from Australia who got involved with the case. Rich is the Rich. Um, Mark is the guy that put up the money for that. Um, that a billboard got put up, and it's if somebody brought the evidence that got Steven released, you would get X amount of dollars. So Mark has, and I've never met Mark or spoken to him. I don't know this man. But Mark is somebody who, I mean, this is basically when Steven stopped talking to me, is when this Mark guy came into the picture. But uh, Mark is somebody Steven didn't say this. This is how I'm describing it. I believe Mark is somebody that Steven considers a good friend and a good supporter. And so this guy will fly from Australia to Wisconsin and go visit with Steven and visit with Alan, and has brought Alan to the prison along with Sandy Greenman. So, um, so yeah, that is that. It is true, the picture that we posted here. And Steven is very upset and wants to see his father. Um, I told Steven, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I am happy to talk with him. I am happy to put stuff out there on this page, letting people know what is going on, and that I will always support his innocence, whether Steven talks to me or not. So, um, Steven did say when the call was ended, he will reach out to me again. When that will be, I don't know. But in the meantime, as I said, I will stand down. I am not going to go storm the castle to go find this out for myself on what is happening with Alan. But Steven's brother Earl, and I know you'll watch this, Earl, because you can't help yourself. So I will look directly into my camera and talk to you, Earl. And I know you can reach out to me because you have before. So I will look right at the camera and tell you, Earl, that you are a piece of shit for keeping Alan away from Steven. You have done so many horrible things to Steven over the years. I don't care if Steven's been mean to you and yelled at you at times. You have your freedom. Steven's not free. And what you have done to him all these years is disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself for first taking Dolores away for the last year of her life and now taking Alan away from a man who's in prison. He's been in prison since, is it 2005 now for this last go around? No idea if he will be released anytime soon. If he will get out while his father is still alive. The governor of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, won't grant clemency for Brendan. Brendan has pretty much exhausted all legal avenues to free him. Kathleen is still working diligently on Steven's case. So let's hope that she's able to I don't even know what level of the courts you have to go to. Our court system is so bad that first you have to go to this court and you have to wait for that judge to say no, and so that can get you to the federal court, and then you need the federal court to say no, so then you can get to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and then the Wisconsin Supreme Court can say no, and then you can go to the Supreme Court. But we all know so many of these judges on all the different level are bullshit. And they just double down on lies to keep innocent people there. And that is what's happening to Steven. He has the best attorney you can have for wrongful convictions in Kathleen Zellner. But judges regularly block, block, block. I see somebody's comment about what a shame that Trump can't intervene. That and something on that is has been said all these years, not just our current president, presidents prior to him as well. You know, the presidents that have been presidents while Stephen has been incarcerated. This is a state case. So therefore, a president can do nothing to free somebody on a state case. It can only be the governor. And the governor of Wisconsin has stated that they will not overturn convictions unless the person has served X amount of time of their sentence. So, and I don't believe Stephen has ever applied for clemency because his legal avenues are not exhausted yet, while Brendan's are. And so Brendan's attorneys have asked for clemency on Brendan's case, but the governor said no. Now, people can still feel free to write to the Wisconsin governor to ask for clemency. But let me tell you, as somebody, I work in politics. I worked campaign side for many years until now, these last 3 years, I work stateside. I am currently the chief of staff for an Illinois state representative. So I know a little about politics. And keeping it 100 with you all, politicians don't care what people have to say if you are not one of their constituents. If you cannot vote for them, they don't care. So in Stephen and Brendan's cases, of course, you've got people all around the world that support them and write to the governor. But if you're not somebody who lives in Wisconsin, they don't care. You're not tipping the scale. But still write them. So it can't hurt to still reach out. But I'm just letting you know they don't care. So Governor Evers doesn't care if you don't live in Wisconsin. People asking about the Innocence Project. So Innocence Project, yes, Robert is correct. They only deal with cases usually that DNA is involved, and Kathleen Zellner has Stephen's case, period. So Kathleen doesn't need the help of Innocence Project. Now, of course, if the Innocence Project wanted to do any investigating in the case, but what are they going to be able to investigate? especially when it comes to anything that is science or DNA related. The state of Wisconsin keeps so much away from Kathleen. Where's the RAV4 that she can't do her own independent testing on? So, and let me tell you, and I know people are mad when I talk about other cases here. Where is Marnie Yang? Because I was in court Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last week for the Marnie Yang case. That is a case here in Illinois that Kathleen Zellner is not her attorney. Her attorney is Jed Stone, who has freed 9 people that were wrongfully convicted. And I took notes so we had a stage 3 evidentiary hearing for Marnie Yang. And I'm not going to take you guys well down the rabbit hole, but I just have to tell you one of the things that the state said in Marnie's case to show you how stupid so much of this is. The victim in the Marnie Yang's case was shot 8 times. 7 cases, bullet casings, and 5 live rounds were uncovered there. And so remember, to get your case back into court, you have to give new evidence. And so a new evidence on the Marnie Yang case is the DNA testing that was done on these 7 casings. And so the thing that the state's attorney was saying just on the last day, Wednesday last week, he kept saying, there's 1 casing missing and nobody knows where that is. And the first responders could have, because this case took place in a condo that's like an apartment building, that it could have been kicked out the door by first responders and kicked down the hallway and kicked down the stairs and kicked down into the lobby. And then they tried saying that the casings that our experts, now I'm talking about the Marnie Yang case, not Steven's case. So these casings that we now did DNA testing on and found that there is no Marnie Yang on those casings, but there is an unknown male DNA on those casings. And they're like, oh, but that was from our experts, because our experts swabbed the DNA off the casings because they knew they were going to destroy that in their testing. And so they swabbed the DNA, and then that their experts were only able to handle the bullets with their hands, and that they could not wear gloves in taking apart those casings and firing the live rounds. I don't know. And so my husband, I don't know if he's still on here, but my husband is a avid gun enthusiast and knows everything there is to know about guns. So I had even asked him, saying, can you not wear gloves when you handle these? And he's like, no, you absolutely could have gloves on. This is ridiculous. So these are the lengths that law enforcement, state's attorneys, whatever, will go to ruining evidence. And in Steven's case, we know that Mr. Sweaty Sweat, Ken Kratz, constantly said Teresa Halbach never left Avery Salvage. Never, ever. Yet then there's these bones that are found not at the salvage yard, not at the Redont quarry that's right behind the salvage yard, but at the Manitowoc gravel pit. I don't know how many feet that is or whatever, but there were bones that were found there that Kathleen Zellner, upon taking on this case, had the agreement with the state that they were going to give those bones to her so she could test them. And it wasn't until somebody who had watched Making a Murderer and got involved in this case doing their own legwork that they were able to find in documents that had never been given to Kathleen Zellner that shows that the state gave those bones to the Halbach family. You can't do that. This is evidence. You, so as long as somebody is in prison and they have a path to get back into court to show that they are wrongfully incarcerated, you cannot destroy that evidence. And by giving those bones that the Halbach family they don't even have any rights to, because you're claiming anything that was, that Teresa Halbach never left the salvage yard. They're claiming that Steven burned that body in burn barrels and in the burn pit that is right behind the garage. So therefore, bones that's all the way at the Manitowoc gravel pit, according to the state, is not Teresa Halbach. But now they gave them to Teresa Halbach's mother. You can see the documents of where it was sent to the funeral home and people signing, taking the custody of those bones. Now, where are those alleged bones? Did they go with the rest of Teresa's alleged remains? And is at that St. John Cemetery right by the Halbach home? Don't know. But right, Joyce, the chain of possession is now broken. Not still live Miley came back. So the big hair, Sherry Culhane, was told by Mr. Sweaty Sweat Sweat, put her in his house or garage. Any DNA, science, whatever that came from Sherry Culhane is tainted. What is there to test? You have the magic key and you have the magic bullet. Neither of which you can say are there by Steven's hand. So I don't know what the Innocence Project could do in Steven's case. But I can tell you the Melissa Kaluzinski case, which actually, this is the newest picture of when I just visited Melissa the week of Christmas. Melissa's case, her attorney is also Kathleen Zellner, and the Innocence Project is looking into Melissa's case. But there is science. Shut up, Bryce. Oh my God, Bryce and the owl, I'm going to kill you. No, if you watch the Staircase documentary or any of the things made on the Staircase, it is not an owl. Bryce loves getting me going on the whole owl thing. So I don't know what there is that Innocence Project could do in Steven's case, sadly. But he's got Kathleen Zellner. And I have to say this again in this video because it's always asked of us. Kathleen is still with the case. She's not leaving the case unless Steven tells her she has to leave. Steven is the one that Steven tried to get Kathleen Zellner prior to making a murderer. He knows from things that he has watched while being in prison that Kathleen Zellner is who you want if you're wrongfully convicted. So he actively seeked her out. So Steven is not getting rid of Kathleen Zellner. Kathleen Zellner is on the case and is doing what she can. Now, I will say, I have said this over the years, there has been times that Steven has done his own legal whatever. and he really shouldn't do that. Uh, I get it, being in prison all these years and you just want to be free and you feel like nothing's being done. I get it. So I'm sure there's times that he gets upset with Kathleen thinking she's not doing something and this should be done. But he actually hurts his case if he does any kind of filing, um, not through Kathleen. So, and I have said in the past, anybody who is a an alleged supporter of Steven, don't help him do things like that. If Steven was to come to me, who, I've told him I will help him, however, but if he came to me saying, I'm going to file this without talking to Kathleen or through Kathleen, I would tell him absolutely do not do that. Kathleen is his best bet. So, I was happy to talk to Steven today. Not happy about the things he said about that it is true and the family has taken his father from him. Well, and I shouldn't say family. It is Earl Avery because he said that Chuck is on Steven's side on this and the picture itself he got from Barb. So, oh, Barb. I'm very I'm very conflicted when it comes to Barb. I do not believe Barb has ever taken an active role in having Brendan incarcerated. I believe that Barb loves all of her children and wants the best for all of her children. But I do feel like she is the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. I believe she's purposely, I don't want to hear anything because she doesn't want to think anything of any of her kids. But in by doing that, you're keeping Brendan and her brother Stephen in prison. I believe that there is plenty of evidence that shows that whatever happened to Teresa Hallbach, because I don't know what happened to Teresa. There is no evidence to tell you. We do not know if she was raped. We do not know if she was shot. We do not know if she was stabbed. We do not know what happened to Teresa Hallbach. So I believe Bobby Dassey was the last person to see Teresa Hallbach alive. And I believe he reached out to his mom's boyfriend at the time, Scott Toddock, now her husband, to help after the fact. So, because that's why you have Scott and Bobby do the whole, we saw each other at exactly this time, and one was driving this way to go hunting, and one was driving this way to go hunting. And so I believe Scott Toddock helped get rid of Teresa Hallbach. I believe the evidence shows that. But I believe Barb won't hear of it. Period. We do know that Barb posted on Facebook several years ago that she questioned Bobby about seeing Teresa Hallbach there that day. And he has said to his mom that he never saw her. And then he has also said that he saw her leave. We know that his brother Blaine, that's not a name, that's an appliance, that Blaine said while on the school bus, he saw his brother driving the RAV4. That's in an affidavit. So there is questionable evidence. There is the witness that was delivering the paper and saw Bobby Dassey and an unknown man pushing the RAV4 in the middle of the, well, it was early morning when it's still dark out, pushing the RAV4 back on down Avery Road back towards the salvage yard. So Blaine and men that were filling up at a station, there were multiple people that saw that RAV4 away from that property. And then somebody who has witnessed it go back to the property. And it was going there the early morning that it was discovered there. So I do, in some ways, still have empathy for Barb. I know Barb has had a tough life. Um, I don't want to go into that right now. Um, but I do have empathy for Barb. I do know that Barb still had on and off contact with Steven while he's been there when most of the other family just abandoned him. Most of the family did not visit Steven at all until Making a Murderer came out and became when it first came out, and it was just this big, huge thing. Then the family wanted to glom on to Steven and the supporters that was then giving them money, 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 and taking them to dinner and all these things. Um, I have the visitor logs. I know who was visiting and who wasn't. Barb did occasionally visit Steven. You have to remember many of the Avery family have the low IQ. Barb, not a smart woman. Um, so she can be manipulated, just like Barb was manipulated, against me. And I do understand Barb's dislike of me because she um doesn't like that I say that her son Bobby Dassey and her now husband Scott Toddock are the killers. So I get it. Barb doesn't have to like me, but I do not think that Barb is part of any cover up. I believe that Barb is willingly staying ignorant and just as believing all of her family are innocent. Barb does visit Brendan. Bobby, actually, somebody told me that Bobby just visited Brendan last month for Christmas. That Barb posted a picture of her and Bobby with Brendan at the prison. Um, I have not looked at the visitors logs in a long time, and I do not follow Barb's pages or I don't look at any other Steven Avery page but this one. Hello, Cindy. So I am not keeping up on who has been visiting Steven and who has not. So I can't speak to that. But I do believe, and when you watch the second part of Making a Murderer, when Kathleen Zellner is now going over the evidence, I believe there is so much evidence to show that Bobby Dassey is the one that did this and that Steven is innocent. And it is disgusting to me that Earl Avery is now keeping his father from him. So, the computer cleanup. Yeah. There's so much. Denise is asking, will they do another season of Making a Murderer? That's another one of our most asked questions. I do not believe they will do another season unless this gets back into court. I believe the documentarians absolutely would cover it if Steven was to get into court again, or if something happened and he was just flat out released. I would love for, I'm sure they could make so many more seasons out of footage they already have because they film so much stuff. Like, I would like to be able to watch Steven's original trial. I know there's transcripts, but I would like to see it all. And I know the documentarians were there. Um, So, because I'm somebody who wants to see everything for myself, I don't take it at face value. And I really get bothered by guilters who say that I was just swayed by a one sided documentary. First of all, Making a Murderer is not a one sided documentary. They tried to get Teresa Halbach's family, the attorneys, everybody that was involved in this case, the documentarians tried to get them involved. And they said no, which is their right. So that is why you see some in Making a Murderer of when Teresa Halbach's brother talked to the press and when Mr. Sweaty Sweat Sweat talked to the press. That was the only way that they could show that side, because they wouldn't talk to the documentarians. But I and many of the people who have been here since Making a Murderer have done our own looking into the facts and the evidence. And everything that I saw pointed more so to Steven's innocence. So the stuff you don't see in Making a Murderer still points to his innocence. There is that piece of shit documentary, fake documentary, mockumentary, that Convicting a Murderer, that was done by Candace Owens. You can watch my videos on the Justice with Jack's YouTube channel. That you had to pay to watch that documentary. So I told people I paid for it, so you don't have to. And so I watched them and took notes, and then I did live videos of what I saw on there. And I had facts to oppose everything they put in that Convicting a Murderer. And we get comments. There'll be comments that'll get posted on this live video of people saying, Convicting a Murderer, you need to watch that. Been there, done that. Not buying the t-shirt. Convicting a Murderer is a bunch of bullshit. And that is one-sided bullshit. So do your own investigating. It's all out there. The truth is out there. So Steven and Brendan are innocent. Period. And if I ever came across anything that proved either one of them were guilty, I would say so. There is nothing in it for me to be here all these years saying they are innocent. All right? I'll do my shameless plug for my book. Again, that I always have to do in these videos that people will then attack me for. The book, the self-published book that you can only get on Amazon, Wrongfully Abused, Making an Advocate for Steven Avery. This is my history with the case up until 2022. I make like no money on this book. I've made less than $100 on this book. Okay, it's not a bestseller. So there's nothing in it for me to advocate for Steven's innocence. So if you showed me something that said that he was guilty, I would follow that lead. There is nothing. Christopher, the moderator here for Steven Avery Project and all of my pages, he had reached out to Candace Owens and said I would debate her on this case. She said no. So there is so much to show that Steven and Brendan are innocent. And I will be here, just like I say Kathleen Zellner will. I will be here until this case, we get justice. Period. And then once Steven finally goes free, this page will remain. And then maybe then if I talk about other cases, people won't get so mad at me and go, what does that have to do about Steven? Because, Steven is not the only wrongfully accused person. And everybody should get as much attention as the Steven Avery case. And that's why I have Justice with Jax. And the two other cases that I am deep into my advocating for are Melissa Kaluzinski and Marnie Yang. Maxine, what is happening with the case in Kathleen? So, and I'm going to be ending this video shortly since I've been on now for an hour. But Steven has a meeting with Kathleen on Wednesday. I do not know if this is just a legal call or if Kathleen is visiting him. I don't know. So hopefully we will hear something soon on where Steven's case is. I did post something because in December it was the 10th anniversary of when Making a Murderer came out. And so I had emailed Kathleen and said I was going to be making a post saying it is the 10th anniversary of Making a Murderer. Is there something that I could put out from her to say where the case is now? And sadly, my brain is mush right now. So I don't remember what it is that exactly what she said, but it is posted here on Steven Avery Project that I copied and pasted what she emailed back to me and posted it. So just know Kathleen is still working on the case. Debbie asks me, how is Melissa doing? I haven't made this post yet on Justice with Jax, but Melissa did just text me and told me she is not in a good place right now. January is when Melissa was taken into custody. So this is the anniversary for Melissa. 13 years, I want to say that, but I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on that. So Melissa tries to stay positive and she's trying to keep herself busy, but she's kind of down in the dumps. So I want to make a post on Justice with Jax. I don't know if Christopher is here listening right now. He could also post it while I'm yammering right now. But I want to make a post with how people can write to Melissa and ask people to send her something to get her hopes up, and or to just make her feel good. And I should actually email Kathleen on that too. So Kathleen, and I'm sure Kathleen knows January is a bad time for Melissa. But Melissa does keep busy with, she goes to a leadership training class. Melissa's very big into her Catholic faith. And then Melissa draws stuff. So like these two tattoos I have here, these two butterflies, are butterflies that Melissa drew for me and sent them to me for one of my birthdays. So Melissa and I both love the monarch. That's why my husband used this monarch butterfly to make this justice with I'm using the wrong finger. This justice for Melissa thing is a monarch. And then this one, because Melissa had asked me to send her a book on butterflies, so she had references for drawing. And so this one is called a Melissa Blues, is the name of that butterfly. So and Melissa I am extremely close to and love that girl. So, and I know Kathleen is actively, Kathleen has been with Melissa's case longer than she's been with Steven. So is there always something going on in Melissa's case? No. Same thing with here, so it sucks, but that's how it works. So Steven says he is still learning. He has the tablet that people can text him, so that's how I had reached out to him yesterday, and I posted the instructions on how you all can set up an account. You have to download, so this is through your phone or whatever, that you have to download that app. And so you have to download that app, and then you have to make an account, and then you have to put in um, what prison it is. So this Fox Lake Correctional, and then you have to put in Steven Avery with his inmate number, and then you have to put an amount on your account. And so it's a minimum of $10. And so I only put $10 on it because I didn't know if Steven was even going to answer me, since he hasn't talked to me for years. And so I didn't want to put a bunch of money on there, because I believe I still have money on my phone account that had been with Steven. And I don't know how much that is or whatever. So you have to put a minimum of $10 on there, and then it gets approved, and then you can send a message to him, and it's not known if he will respond to you or not. And and Stephen and I talked about this a little bit on the phone today, but you have to remember that he was taken, and I always say taken because that's what's happened to him. He was taken. So he was taken before cell phones and computers and everything were a thing. So he doesn't really know, so yeah, he's got the tablet now, but he's still, hell, I'm out here having full access to all this, and I don't look at the people who were helping me today trying to figure out on my iPhone on how to make it so silenced calls could come through so I wouldn't miss Steven's call. So Steven isn't an expert on using the tablet. So send him a message. And I told Steven that I always tell, because people say, will he respond? And I'm like, maybe he will, maybe he won't. And Steven told me today that, he tries, when he gets around to it, but there are a bunch of people that message him. So I don't know if you'll hear from him or not, but he does enjoy hearing from his supporters. And so text him or send him the snail mail, however you want. I always tell people, if you are writing to somebody who's in prison, don't just make it about their case and ask them a whole bunch of questions about their case, because guess what? They think about their case every day. So instead, tell them about yourself, who you are, what you do, what you like. Ask them what they like. Try and have a conversation, a real conversation with them, and bring them out of having to think about the horrors that are their case. So Steven likes cars, and working on cars. So if you're somebody like that, you could talk to him about that. So I really want people to take them out of where their mind is captured all these years while they're stuck in prison. I did ask him, because when I used to talk to Steven and visit him is when he was in Waupun, and now he's in that Fox Lake Correctional. And so I asked him, how is it being in the different prison? And he said, much better. So that's good to hear. I mean, it's still prison, so it's not the best, but anything good, I'm happy to hear. So this is where I'm going to end today's video. That, yes, I talked to Steven. I will do as I do with all the videos now. I have to upload it to the Justice with Jack's YouTube channel, because Facebook only allows these videos to stay up for like 30 days, and then Facebook deletes them, and they'll be forever on YouTube. So if you have not liked and subscribed to Justice with Jax on YouTube, please do so, you get notified of new content over there. I haven't done live videos over there in forever. But everything that I've done here on Facebook is over there. Like, we went over all of Steven's jail calls that somebody got for FOIA. So you can listen to all those calls if you want. All my past trips to Manitowoc, all that, you can find those videos on the Justice with Jax YouTube channel. And it's called Justice with Jax, not Steven Avery Project, because then I can talk about other cases and I don't get the, what does that have to do with Steven Avery? Because, I advocate pretty hard for Melissa Kaluzinski and Marnie Yang, just as hard as I do for Steven. And I visit with Marnie and Melissa, and I would visit with Steven if he wanted me to come visit him. I do, what an advocate does is I just do what I can to try and make their lives better. Oh, Denise says there's still videos of me on UK Facebook from 4 months ago. Yeah, I'm never, Facebook says they're going to delete them in 30 days. So I'm not sure that they always do, but just to be safe, I put them over on YouTube. So they're there. Thank you, everybody, for being supporters of Steven's and for coming on here to listen to me blab for the second time today. Any updates I get from Steven, I will bring to you. You never know when I'm going to go live, because if something happens spur of the moment, I will go live as soon as I can. When I first started with this case, I wasn't working, so I had a ton of time that the second anything happened, I was able to go live. Now I work. So, I work a regular job, Monday through Friday thing, and I was off work today. So that's why I was able to go live. It's during the day here where I am in Illinois. It's 2:08 p.m. Central Time currently. So you just have to, follow this page. Facebook is not the best at notifying people when I go live. So, you just got to keep an eye here. I try to make, or Christopher will create an event and give you notice so that I'm going live. I do the best I can to try and so people can join us on the live, but I can't always, you can't please everybody, right? So, all right, I'm out to spend the rest of my day off from work going and sitting and watching TV, right? And just chilling out. Thank you, everybody. Until next time, investigation continues.